Did we witness the end of an all-time rivalry? Maybe. I hope not, though. Several teams endured crushing losses, one getting eliminated altogether. And we also saw a couple teams pick up statement victories here in the final days of the regular season. Welcome into another edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before, only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Final days of the regular season. Back with you another edition of Locked On NHL Game Night. I am your host, Mike Asti, and joined alongside here for this one by professional play-by-play man TJ Chillot. I am a digital journalist in the Pittsburgh market, most notably with the Yardbarker. I cover the college and pro scene around town here, and also host the podcast Mic Drop that is played on Sirius XM. And TJ, we had an active Sunday. We had an important Sunday, and maybe we had the end of an era on this Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed like every matchup had something hanging in the balance there where it could go one way or could go the other way as far as the playoffs are concerned. And of course, you know, anytime that Crosby and Ovechkin get together in these final years, whether this was it or not, you still have to pay close attention.
100%. And welcome in again to another edition of Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And Capitals Penguins, I kind of slotted it in as the headliner no matter what was going to happen on this day, and it deserved it just for the history between Crosby and Ovechkin, Crosby and Malkin playing in this game after not playing in Pittsburgh on Saturday. And TJ, I will tell you, little controversy on that decision here in Pittsburgh. The fans not too thrilled that they didn't get to experience maybe the final game of this rivalry, and that Crosby and Malkin, apparently, from what my colleagues say, that cover the team every day, decided to give it to the DC fans. They only were going to play in one game. They weren't going to play in both back-to-back. They already had things clinched. They felt like the right thing to do was to play in this one. If it was Ovechkin's last game. Maybe it was. Maybe it was not, though. But gameplay-wise, the Capitals were able to control things throughout. They were able to win this game 3-0. They are still alive. And Ovechkin even waved the Penguins off at the end when they were staying on the ice thinking, okay, if this is it for you, let's show the respect. He waved them off and basically said, I don't know. After the game, though, in the locker room, they all met. They all signed each other's sticks. Crosby, Malkin, Ovechkin, they've done this a time or two before. That's nothing new. There were some pictures taken that maybe gives you the vibe that it could be it. But again, some reporting saying that Ovechkin's not sure still. He's going to wait a while to decide. Evgeny Malkin said in the locker room that he actually believes Ovechkin's going to still play and that he's still hungry, which is what many of us questioned the last several months, certainly since the Carlson trade. The Capitals have played better. He's able to have another quality scoring season, 30-plus again, over Gretzky for the 1,000. Everything under the sun came up Ovechkin in this last month, and maybe, just maybe, the Capitals will be in the postseason. Before we get to this game, do you think Ovechkin is going to call it quits at the end of this season? Do you think he tipped anything off with the waving the Penguins off the ice, as some are now trying to read into that? Because, for example, Anze Kopitar is allowing everybody to congratulate him because this is his final season, and he had the whole microphone in his hand at the end. Ovechkin also declined to do that. It makes you believe that maybe this is not it, although some have said that they would not be shocked if, hey, he goes out with turning everything down and then just is going out almost in a whimper and not giving the fans kind of what they wanted in that last game. And we'll get to the actual game here in a moment. But do you think this is it for Ovechkin? Do you think you read into anything from this game for his decision?
I can't make up my mind on this. You know, there's some times where I sit there and I go, well, if they don't make the playoffs, I think he's going to be done. But then I also sit there and go, he's the type of competitor, he will want to go out higher than just falling out in the last week of the regular season. Then I sit there and I go, well, maybe if they go, you know, into the playoffs, he'll be done because that satisfies that hunger that you were talking about. You know, maybe just gets one more playoff push and he'll be happy with that. But then I sit there and I go, well, if he gets into the playoffs, I feel like maybe he'll want to play again next year. year.
Yeah.
Especially if they go somewhat deep, which I don't
Right.
think
You lose in 7. Right.
I can't make up my mind on this. I think he did
Yeah.
tip his hat a little bit with the wave, but he's also been known to be a little cheeky and a
Yeah.
little cute with that kind of thing. So he might have known exactly what he was doing, stirring the pot a little bit and knowing people are going to get a little excited if he waves. But I can't make up my mind on this, and only he would know. It'll be clear. I won't be surprised one way or the other. All I'm asking is don't call a press conference just to say you're coming back. I think that's the biggest waste of everyone's time.
And that's happened quite often throughout sports history in this situation. And let's also not have a emotional, I'm crying, press conference, I'm retiring, and then end of July, coming back. I'm sorry, I'd like to play again. I saw a move in the offseason I wasn't expecting, etc. Let's not kind of do an NFL quarterback situation here. I don't think he would do any of those things. And it also seemed, and from what others have said, that Crosby was kind of going into this thinking, okay, this could be the end. Crosby admitted in interviews that he's been thinking a lot of. He's such a good guy. He's been thinking a lot about Ovechkin in recent weeks because of their history. Maybe this could be the end. He was not aware he was going to get waived off. He was the one who put the team there and said, we got to do this for Ovechkin. Apparently, again, him and Malkin had the option to play either of these games because they were not going to play both, and they decided to play this one out of respect for Ovechkin. And then he kind of pulls his about face and like, no, just teased you guys. Late April Fools, I'm actually going to play next year. We know for sure, not breaking news here, I can confirm Crosby's playing next year, regardless of how the playoffs go. He's going to play next year. The Penguins are going to be there. Malkin, it seems like, wants to play. With the Penguins is a different question. And then for Ovechkin, I always thought most of this year, the way things were going for the Capitals, that this would probably be it. Certainly if he got over Gretzky for the overall goals combined playoffs regular season, like he has the all-time mark for the regular season he got over last year. But this past month has been different. I mean, he went from saying it was the most depressing day of his individual career outside of playoff losses after Carlson was traded, and we saw him get a hat trick with the Ducks. He never did that with Washington. He's now played well over there. We'll get to the Ducks later on in this show. And now I could see him kind of being persuaded, thinking, I kind of like what's going on here. Make some moves, add to this youth core. It's not that deep in the East. Maybe we can get in next year. Maybe we can be one of these bubble teams next year. Why not do this one more time? Or at least do it and try to go out with Crosby. Closer to that. I don't know. Maybe Crosby plays 3 or 4 more years, or as some are saying too. So I don't know if the wave means anything, but I will say I want to see more of Ovechkin for sure. I definitely want him to keep on playing, but we will let him make that decision and announce it when he wants to. And this is also another weirdness when it comes to legends and a decision that national reporters, the insiders, whoever, fans, media, us, nobody really knows for sure. And everyone's kind of admitting they don't know for sure. He's keeping this very close to the vest. Anyone who knows is not saying they know. So there's either respect to just let him do this, which is also rare, or even reporters just not actually sure. So that's kind of cool that we're going to get a total, whenever they are done, we are going to get a full-on surprise announcement, whichever way that does go. Now, to this gameplay, does this show you anything about either team in terms of the Capitals staying alive? They do need some things to go their way in the final days, or even the Penguins' chances here. Skinner in net, and as great as Skinner looked when he first came over after the trade, he's been down to earth and kind of been that guy that cost the Oilers probably at least one of those 2 cup finals these last 2 years. They've kind of seen that guy again, and it's still a very top-heavy team that needs a lot of offense and scores goals, but defensively would be the issue, whether it's youth or the veterans for the Penguins.
Yeah, I was a little shaky with the Penguins when I was watching this game. I mean, they kind of felt like they were just a little loosey-goosey out there. Washington, a team that was playing with a lot more speed than the Penguins. They were finding more open patches of ice. They were obviously making Skinner's life a little bit more difficult. I think back to the second goal of the game. It was the one that was ultimately scored by McMichael, his first of the game. Yeah. You look at a couple of Penguins and you got guys looking in the wrong direction. So I think this was just, and that could simply be the fact that, look, they know they're in the playoffs already.
Yeah, didn't matter as much to them. Yeah,
exactly. They're not playing. They're playing a vanilla style. They don't want to show too much. They don't want to give away too much. And at the same time, you've got guys in and out of the lineup. just time management and load management going into the playoffs. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But the downside to all that is you don't want these bad habits to become permanent habits going in the playoffs, and all of a sudden you can't shake this stuff off and you struggle. So I wouldn't sound the alarm, but I was a little looking at this game and watching what the Penguins are doing. I was like, ooh, they better be ready to answer the call when the playoffs start.
Especially because the Penguins, kind of the underrated story of them being a playoff team this year and being a surprise that nobody thought they would get here, especially with Crosby missing games with an injury and Malkin missing games with a suspension and then injuries, is they've had a youth movement that nobody expected. And young players, including rookies, really stepping up and being contributors and winning them some games. And the teams that ended up not getting in, Detroit, those teams, they didn't get enough from their youth. They just were relying on 3 or 4 players, and they weren't enough. The Penguins got that youth movement to step up this year that nobody was expecting. And to have these games and then kind of have those, because those are the players that you're not sure with those bright lights of the playoffs and how they're going to act. You know that Crosby and Malkin are going to be fine. Letang will be fine. Carlson will be fine. Those players will be fine. Even Skinner's had a lot of playoff experience, of course, in net. But how do you feel about the youth movement? How those young players that haven't been there before? That's a question mark. We'll see how they perform in the postseason. So games like this, when they're out there more because of the lines being shaken up with nothing really to play for the Penguins, maybe even more room for pause. And if the Capitals would crawl in, do you see them at all as dangerous? Doesn't sound like it.
I don't think so. I mean, I think that Thompson could probably win them a handful of games, maybe even a series if he plays really well. I just think Washington's big knock is just they're a little on the younger side outside of the Tom Wilsons and Alex Ovechkins on the roster. I think they're going to be more dangerous in the years upcoming once some of those younger guys get their feet wet and get a little bit of experience. So I think, if they do sneak in, that'll be huge for their future development, because now all of a sudden when you go into next year, if they do make it into the playoffs next year, you can go, okay, well, these guys like McMichael, like Justin Sortif, they've now seen the postseason. They've seen what it's like. They're going to be pieces moving forward, the Ryan Leonards and so on and so forth. So they've actually gotten their chance to really dig in terms of for the first time in their career. So I think that might make them a little bit more dangerous. If they do get in, I do see them being a first and one and done and kind of out. But they got to get in first, and they've got a big road ahead of them to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, 93 points on the year, one back of Philadelphia, and those wild card spots are taken up. So they're looking up at the Flyers, and even we have another team that's still alive, even though they're on life support that we'll get to later on this show. I wouldn't bet on it. Because the Flyers do have a couple games left to play, only one for the Capitals here, but we will see. We're going to give the last word on this conversation, though, to our Locked On Capitals host. A big win, whether it's emotions or just in general in the standings for the Capitals.
Did Alex Ovechkin play his final game in Washington, D.C.? Hi, this is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. Well, that is the headline story surrounding the Capitals right now, is did we just witness Alex Ovechkin play his final home game in D.C.? Listen, it's nice that the Capitals took down the Pittsburgh Penguins 2 times this weekend to keep their playoff hopes somewhat alive. But the question about after this season for Alex Ovechkin, that is the biggest question. Ovi, who has been non-committal all season, saying he doesn't know, has a big question to answer. And he said he'll make his decision in the offseason. Of course, I have stood pat saying that I think that he is going to retire at the end of the season. And then you see all the things that took place that Ovi did. A lot of jersey exchanges, a lot of autographs that he doesn't normally do. So that makes me think he's going to retire. But then you see Alex Ovechkin kind of shrugging off the Penguins as they wanted to do the handshake after the game. That it is a big question mark surrounding this organization. I guess we don't have too much time to wait as the Capitals play their final regular season game on Tuesday against the Columbus Blue Jackets, where it all started for Alex Ovechkin. That was the team that he faced for the first time and scored his first NHL goal. I'll have a whole lot more later on the next edition of Locked On Caps.
Well, if they don't make it, you'd have some synergy there. It would almost be fitting to first goal, maybe last game, first opponent, maybe last opponent there. And Dan kind of doing the same thing that we're doing, that everybody is doing. Maybe we're reading into the wave off, the signing of jerseys, the signing of sticks a bit too much. We'll see who's right and who's wrong here. Again, Locked On NHL Game Night, TJ Chillot, Mike Asti, and moving right along. The Canadiens eliminated the New York Islanders from playoff contention. A statement win for Montreal, as they look like a team that if they get out of that first round, they could make a run. They're very, very deep. The Islanders, though, in the playoffs most of the year, fading down the stretch, issues in net, which was not a concern or anybody thought would be a concern earlier in the season. They lose this game 4-1. Demidov scores a goal. Nick Suzuki, TJ, and this popped to me, and I think of myself as a historian here. This stat popped to me. He became only the 5th Montreal Canadian player in their history to record a 100-plus point season, and the first since Mats Naslund in 85-86. This is the franchise with the most Stanley Cups.
Unbelievable.
They've not won since 93, but they have the most, and we're talking about the entire history, not just the last 30 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time a lot of our listeners, myself, have even seen anything like this come out of Montreal. Right, I wasn't around in 85, 86, so I can't.
I was not alive either, correct. Yeah.
I've never seen this. 50, just Suzuki, one of 5 guys, fantastic year for him. And I mean, how he got it done too was a beautiful assist. He also tacked on a goal as well. I mean, he played a solid game, and right now Montreal is churning, and they are looking like they could be primed for a good playoff run.
Yeah.
I like what the players are doing. I like what they're getting out of Marty St. Louis. I mean, he's just he's squeezing the right pressure points, and he's getting the right production out of certain guys. I mean, goaltending is always going to be a question, I think, for Montreal outside of Dobish. I mean, he's been playing so good as of late. Can he carry that into the playoffs? And if not, is Jacob Fowler going to be a sustainable number 2? That's what we're going to find out. But right now with Slavkovsky, with Suzuki, I mean, what these guys are doing, they look really strong, and I would not necessarily want to see them in the first round.
No, they are a team that I don't think anybody's going to want to play. Again, in terms of depth, whether they're household names or not, in terms of depth, they maybe have the most in terms of depth of forwards and players that can really score, and you have that speed too with Suzuki. And that's going to be a trivia question that I don't think anybody outside of Montreal Canadian fans are going to be answering correctly in terms of the most recent Canadiens player to score, put up 100-plus points in a season, or even how many there have been. I think most would probably say there are more than 5, and it's just 5. And yeah, they've won the most cups, but they've done it certainly in the modern era when they've had good teams and have been to a cup final in recent memory, despite not having won since 93. They usually do it with defense, grind it out, goaltending, even back to the 86 Cup. Obviously, Patrick Roy early in his career. This is a Canadiens team that if they would win, or really however far they go, they're built differently. It's question in net, question of depth in net, and just a lot of offense. So it is kind of a weirdness for Montreal Canadiens fans, but I doubt they're too upset if they get the victories and they get the points and they're going to be in the dance, and certainly they could be dangerous. Before, though, we move on with the show, and we're going to check in with our Islanders host, too, on this, I want to ask you, is this season still successful for the Islanders now that they are not going to be in the playoffs? Most thought they would get in most of the year. You see a great season from Schaefer, one of the greatest defenseman seasons ever, certainly for a rookie. I mean, he's not old enough to drink yet, and he's the future of the league, but they kind of blew it down the stretch. And this is a fan base that was very, very hungry for not only to get in, but a deep run, and neither happened.
Yeah, I think they have questions with goaltending. I don't know what happened there towards the end of the year with Sorokin. I mean, yes, he was hurt, so maybe he still has some lingering stuff, and he's not been playing up to 100%. He's just been trying to gut it out so that he can try and will his team into the postseason. I think the Schaefer is a positive thing, but then you look up and down the rest of their lineup, they are not getting any younger outside of a couple of guys. I mean, yes, you've got Callum Ritchie at 21, but for every Callum Ritchie, you've got 3 or 4 guys over the age of 30. I mean, Casey Cizikas is 35. Pajot's 33. Shen is 34. Lee's 35. Palat's 35. They've really got to kind of figure out who is the next generation for the New York Islanders, because I think outside, yes, you have Schaefer. He's your defenseman, and he's going to put up some big points. He's a great puck-moving defenseman, but who's your stellar standout forward going to be that's on the younger side? So you're not kind of hanging everything on the older guys. The Bo Horvats and so on. He's 31. And again, anybody out there that's 31, I'm not saying you're old, but in the grand scheme of things,
we're older than that.
So. I am. I'm 38, so I feel it. But you need that next step. Is it a success? I think they answered that question when they fired Waugh. I think that tells you
That's
that
fair.
they view this as a not successful season. What they
Yeah.
do moving forward is I really think they need to pay attention to their youth.
Yeah, and the firing didn't provide them the jolt that maybe they thought it was going to provide them. Unlike other teams, they made that in Vegas made that decision toward the end of the season, and Vegas has looked kind of the same for me, but they're in an easier conference, and the Islanders faded out even after the move. And going into the season, I don't think anybody thought the Islanders would be as good as they were in, say, December, January, and February, which is a credit to Patrick Roy at that time. But once you get to that level and then you parted it away, you had new standards that crept up in the midst of the year, which cost him his job and cost the team the postseason. And of course, you have a player to build around that many franchises would wish they could have off of just drafting somebody. But yeah, they have a lot of work to do in the offseason to build this back up because one defenseman is not going to be enough. You rather build around a forward. They're not being able to do that. And he got a lot more responsibility at the end of the year, and he still put up numbers. But the more responsibility they gave to Schaefer, the worse the team did. It's not a critique of him at his age, but that's just a fact of what happened. So maybe they put too much on the man this early in his career. I don't know. They allowed 3 goals in 55 seconds in this game to end their year. So they ended their year in a horrendous fashion. And you mentioned Sorokin. He's had some real clunkers recently. And that really, again, has led them to miss the postseason. When we return, though, we have a few other games that were pivotal to the standings, and we have a couple other teams that dropped the ball, so to speak, here. Again, we will continue back with you when we talk about the final days here of the regular season before the playoffs here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Back with you, Locked On NHL Game Night, and the NHL playoffs are almost here, where every shift matters, every moment is intense, and the pressure is at its highest. That could be the case on and off the ice for you, maybe. And just like the performance that matters on the ice, it matters off the ice too. That's where Rigid comes in. Rigid offers treatment designed to help you get ready and stay ready when it matters, if you know what I mean. Their top option, Rigid Ready, combines clinical proven ingredients in a simple mint that dissolves right under your tongue. So easy to take and actually tastes good as well. It works fast, often in about 15 minutes, and gets you ready when you need to be ready fast. Again, if you know what I mean. And can last up to 36 hours. They also offer Go Long, which is designed to help with performance again on and off the ice, performance and control. It's all about confidence and feeling like yourself again. Head to rigid.com/lockedonnhl and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIET.com/lockedonnhl for 15% off. Rigid Performance Medicine for Men. I also want to tell you about Rocket Money. And if you ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of all your subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast for sure. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It tracks all your subscriptions in one spot and help you control what you're spending and what you're spending on, and can cancel the subscriptions that you just don't want or didn't even know that you're still subscribed to. I know, I have a lot of subscriptions out there. I look at it and think, I didn't even know I was still subscribed to this. It can make it easy for you to cancel when you need to and do it fast. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going, not just wonder. And you can set the budget and get alerts and stay on top of your upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clear picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Locked On NHL Game Night. TJ Chillot, Mike Asti here, and the Boston Bruins picked up a 3-2 victory over the Columbus Blue Jackets, putting the Blue Jackets on life support here, to say the least. The Bruins snapped their recent losing skid. They also make a statement that they could be for real, and who knows what they're going to do in the postseason. And the Blue Jackets, who've been that feel-good story since Bones got hired, they went from worst to maybe thinking they could be first to probably the end of the line here, as they blow a big chance based on what else went on throughout the weekend. Does this say more about the Bruins and their chances in the postseason, or more about the Blue Jackets and kind of the end of the feel-good story maybe for the NHL this year?
Yeah, it definitely makes it harder. Obviously, with Philadelphia right now in control of the Metro,
Right.
at least that third position in the Metro, they've got 2 games. Columbus does have Washington, so if anything breaks
True.
in their favor, it's the fact
Yeah.
that the team that they need to beat is the team that they're going to play in their final game of the regular season.
Yeah, they're not out of it yet, but yeah.
There's ways, right? They could
Right.
count their lucky stars and maybe something breaks in their favor.
Yeah.
When I look at this Columbus team, they did everything right in this game. I mean, they threw everything at Korpisalo. Everything was going on goal, and Korpisalo played a great game. I don't want to say that they necessarily got goalied. I know that's the new phrase that seems to be going around a lot lately. I don't want to necessarily say that, but Korpisalo he did so much in this game to make sure Boston would get the win. He saved 33 of the 35 that he saw, and Columbus didn't come out flat. This wasn't a game where, after the first couple minutes you go, well, there goes Columbus's season. They did everything they could do to make this a game, to put up some kind of fight. I just think Boston has that better top-end talent. They got a great performance out of their goaltender, which certainly was the difference maker in this one. And ultimately, that's where we are. And if you're a Blue Jackets fan, you just got to hope and pray that you can somehow backdoor your way into the dance.
Yeah, and it's disappointing if you're a Blue Jackets fan to lose this game now because, again, the opportunity was there, and you've been so hot most of the second half of the year since the Olympic break. You've been so good from that point on, certainly again since Bones took over. However, if anybody would have told a Blue Jackets fan in December, you're going to have a shot here in the final day or so, they would take it, especially where they were in the standings at that point. This is a season, unlike, say, the Islanders with an older core, despite Schaefer, where they're thinking, oh, we thought we had a window, we missed the window, we got to do a lot more around Schaefer in the offseason. The Blue Jackets can really stay the course and be pretty satisfied, even if they don't get in. This is a successful year. We'll see what they learned from now the veteran coach they played under and what can happen in the future. And Boston is the team that I will say, TJ, I'm not predicting them to go ahead and win the East or lift the cup here, but they are that team out East that no one's really talking about having a shot to go on this deep run. You don't hear much mention about them. It's always Tampa if they can get out of their own way, Buffalo, of course, and even the Penguins with Crosby and Malkin. And we talked about Carolina on past shows. You're in that market and what Montreal can do as deep as they are. Boston doesn't get all that love, but they have a lot of depth too and a lot of scoring punch too if they get goaltending and they get performances in net like they got in this game. So this could be a wide open year, and a wide open year, you could have a team that maybe you're not thinking is going to go the distance that actually gets there and gets the job done. Now, the Senators are another team to transition that's come out of nowhere here the second half of the year. They are going to be in. They got some help from the Red Wings collapsing yet again because they had a 15-point lead on them a couple months ago, and now they're on. Now they're going to go home. And Ottawa is in the postseason here. They won this game 3-2 over the Devils, who, ironically enough, eliminated the Red Wings and sent Ottawa to the postseason a day earlier. Ironic there. No Brady Tkachuk here. The Devils are obviously not going anywhere. They just kind of have liked playing spoiler. Ottawa, though, has been so red hot. Can Ottawa carry this over? How for real are they as a contender? I know that Alex Wiederspiel's jumped on these shows. We did our last one. He's predicting them to be the first team to win a division they're not in. He thinks they're actually a real bad matchup for Carolina, for example. But even as they've been coming out of nowhere these last several months, I personally didn't think they were a team that was going to go on a long playoff run. I didn't think they had enough depth. It's hard to doubt them the way they've been playing, though.
It is. I'm not as high on them as Alex is. I know he's said multiple times, as you just said, that he thinks that they're a bad matchup against Carolina.
He's also really down on Bussy in Carolina, though. I think it's part of it. He's been down on Carolina and Bussy most of the year.
And at the same time, I'm pretty down on Ottawa's goaltending situation. Omar can do it, but outside of that, I mean, James Reimer's not it. Merilainen, do you pull him and use him as the number 2? I mean, outside of Omar, and I'm not saying Omar can't carry him. I don't think they're nearly as bad of a matchup for Carolina as they say they are. I think right now with the way that things are after these games, Carolina, Ottawa, and then you have Buffalo, Boston.
Yeah,
I think Boston is a much more deadly matchup for Buffalo than
Okay.
Ottawa is for Carolina.
That's a good question. Yeah. I mean, Buffalo's been so great all year, but this is the first time in 14 years. They could be a team that's vulnerable. We've seen teams break droughts, be great all year, and then all of a sudden losing that first round because of a matchup or whatever. Boston actually has more experience in this moment. Maybe they're underrated. Maybe they would salivate for the opportunity.
It's a divisional rival.
Divisional rival. Like, I'm going to pick Buffalo, but I wouldn't be shocked if Boston won that and really upset the apple cart all through the Eastern Conference. I don't know if I'd be surprised if Ottawa beat Carolina. I could see that going either way. I'm not really high on Carolina going far either, but depending on what Bussy does in net and how many goals they can score, because they've been able to outscore even his poor games. But Ottawa just has never felt like a deep run team to me, but they've been playing with so much energy. I wonder just how much they also have left in the tank. They basically have been in the playoffs for 3 months.
Yeah, that pedal's been flat.
Right. Like, it's starting to wane a little bit here, and they know they're in now, so they were able to kind of rest some guys, but we'll see what they can do. And, it's going to be interesting. I wouldn't be probably shocked if anybody beats anybody, especially in the Eastern Conference with how close things have been so far this year. And I'm sure they're going to get into the playoffs. We're going to have deep series, and I'm looking forward to having deep postseasons all throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. We have one more slate of games left to go, and in those, we have a team that also missed an opportunity on the night, but is still alive, and another one that was just kind of an oddball result to close the night. The NBA playoffs are about to be here as the regular season closes up, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. And that is with an opportunity with the FanDuel app where you can bet on bet up to $5, bet as little as $5, and up to whatever you want here every single game of the postseason as it lingers on throughout the weeks and months. You can even get $250 in bonus bets if you bet your first bet and it wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with every player's stats, trends, and matchup all in one place. You can bet there. You can look what's going on there. You can do it all in one spot. And during the playoffs, the extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging, whether you have a team in the dance or not, from start to finish. You can use the website to look up the lines here, and you can follow along and bet every game, every day through the NBA postseason. Head over to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. TJ Chillot, Mike Asti here, Locked On NHL Game Night, our nightcap edition here. We now go out west. It's been East heavy, a lot of East, even in these recent shows, but the matchups in the East, the playoff race in the East, the bottom of the East, it's been more interesting. Let's just be honest here. But over in the West, the Canucks steal a game from the Ducks, and not really steal one, hang on to one. They had a lead most of this game. Anaheim had to fight back to come back in this game. They get it to overtime. And then Marco Rossi blasts a game winner with 9 seconds left. And Anaheim probably felt like they were going to take it in the shootout. They don't get there. Vancouver playing for nothing. It was even said on the broadcast, they might as well go 5-on-3 when they had a 4-on-3. And they didn't do it, but I was rooting them to do it. Because, again, you're in last. You might as well go in last. Adam Foote didn't have the cojones to do that. They won it nonetheless in OT. Who knows what that means to those players. The Ducks, though, miss an opportunity. They get 1 point instead of 2. They would have clinched if they had that second point. They're still very much alive, but a missed opportunity against the worst team in the NHL all season long. And we've seen Dostal also be rough as of late. Talking about goaltenders that have been leaky here in recent weeks, he's allowed 5, 6, and 4 in his recent games. And then, of course, 4 in this one, including the overtime loser. Where's your concern meter on the Ducks, who've been that surprise story, a 3-time Cup champion coach? They bring in John Carlson. He gets a hat trick. They haven't really been winning that much more often with him on the team, even though he stabilized things as that veteran presence on the blue line.
No, they've just been up and down, and you can see it just
Yeah.
looking at their standings positions all year. You know, they're leading the Pacific, then all of a sudden Vegas comes on strong and
Yeah.
they dive. And now that's kind of where they're at after this up and down. Right now, they're more down than they're up. This is a golden opportunity to get those 2 points that they need, punch their ticket. They might have come into this sleepwalking a little bit, thinking, oh,
Yeah.
we're playing the worst team in the league. We should be able to shut this down. But as you mentioned, it was even said on the broadcast that I was listening in on the Anaheim broadcast, and they even talked about how this Canucks team did not play like the worst team in the league.
No, not at all.
Everywhere tonight. Their speed
Yeah.
was better. Their physicality was better.
Yeah.
Their shot selection was better. Here's a fun fact for you, though. 13 of the last 16 times these two teams have played, Anaheim has lost. Vancouver has beaten Anaheim 13.
Not fun for Ducks
16.
fans. That's not fun for Ducks fans.
All for Ducks fans.
Yeah.
And I guess more to the point, you know, that's another reason why get up, get this game, and try to put it away early if you can. They got that first goal of the game thanks to Cutter Gauthier, but after that, it was just all Anaheim. They couldn't quite get it done. They managed to kind of pull themselves up by the bootstraps there in the third, get those two quick goals. I think they were under 2 minutes to tie things up at 3-3, and they played well in overtime, but not well enough, obviously, to get the win. My concern meter with the Ducks is if you get in, I don't have high hopes that you're going to go very far if you get in.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well, and they are one of those teams benefiting by being in the West. Obviously, they're very West in California, but in the East, you'd have some teams that are about ready to fire the whole group that would be in above them right now. So they're benefiting that their slide is not mattering as much because of the conference they're in, but they also entered the day way up the charts of even ahead of Vegas, Edmonton, teams like that to either snag a division title or have a deep run, and then you miss this opportunity here. You get the 1 point instead of two. When you're not able to get 2 points against Vancouver, no matter how they're playing this year, it's a missed opportunity, no matter when it happens during the season, and especially at this moment. Anaheim, they've been a playoff team most of the year. We'll see what happens, but if they do get in, I don't think much of them going far as well. They do seem very vulnerable for an early exit. And Dostal is going to be that issue. I mean, no matter what they can do offensively, he's been rough as of late. He plays like that, they can lose to anybody. Our last game of the night, though, the Calgary Flames 4-1 over Utah. You can call it a missed opportunity, I guess, for Utah. You're facing a really bad Flames team, but it doesn't matter as much for them by any means. They're going to be in the postseason, but consecutive losses for Utah now. Thoughts on this game? Either way, I guess, or even Utah in general going to the postseason?
I think this is just a classic classic hangover game. We just clinched in our last game, and we're happy to be there. And you just kind of you take a breath, and that's what they were doing. They're in the process of taking a breath, and Calgary's going, well, we can still have some fun. We're not going anywhere. But Calgary played a pretty strong game. There was a goal that was upheld, which I know a lot of people were kind of. It was Blake Coleman coming in on the breakaway. I thought he was hooked a little bit, and he threw on the brakes and then collides into the net. There were some people on Twitter and out there kind of saying, what is goalie interference anymore? This was not one of those examples. I think this was a classic good call. It was just Calgary playing, and that was why I brought that up. They just kept their legs moving in this game every single shift. They look like a really strong team who are playing for future contracts or playing for future positions on what line are they going to be on if they're still going to be with the team. They might be playing for jobs elsewhere. If
like Vancouver, similar mentality.
Yeah, exactly. And it's better, if you can take on a team that just, clinch their postseason spot and you can welcome them back to earth. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible story for Utah, for that market, to have them be a playoff team. And even if they're kind of backdooring in here with a couple losses here, they're in. And they are a team that you don't want to say players are just happy to be there. But for the franchise, they're probably just happy to be there. And we'll see what happens for them as a team. But again, anybody can beat anybody, certainly out in the West. It's a rough loss in general. They have 90 points on the year, though. And when you look again at the West, it's not a big deal. They're going to be in. They have that locked up. Same amount of points now with Anaheim, though, and a couple games left to go for the Ducks to kind of fix things and get in there on a better note if they do still get in. That'll do it for this edition of the show as our NHL regular season winds down, but we're going to have these Locked On NHL Game Night shows after each playoff game as well. So thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, leave a comment on a comment here, and follow us on YouTube, as well as find this everywhere you get your podcast. And if you miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you as well. You can go there and talk with our hosts and really get VIP access and what's going on throughout Locked On, throughout the NHL channel, and even with the Game Night crew as well. And we have a Locked On NHL show for every team. And if you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, there is that show for you, whether it's video or audio form. The Game Night crew is here for you each and every night of the regular season and playoffs, which are now coming up. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the show, find us on YouTube, and again, comment, and we will talk back to you. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. For TJ Chillot, I'm Mike Asti. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.